G'day Gear Junkies, Jason here. A few years back I did a video comparing amp distortion to pedal distortion. What I did was I took my Mesa Solo Heads drive channel and I compared that to a bunch of distortion pedals going through the clean channel of my Fender Deluxe Reverb. Now a lot of people pointed out this was not a particularly fair comparison because both amplifiers were running through different speakers and the speaker does make a big difference. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing again because I want to answer the question, at least for myself, how much do I lose out by using a Fender amplifier with a Marshall style pedal as opposed to actually using a Marshall amplifier? Now it's going to be a lot fairer this time because the two amplifiers I'm going to use both use a Celestion V-type speaker. So both amps have the same speaker this time. But before I begin, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe. And if you want to help this channel out, you can go to the Middle Age Gear Junkie store and buy some merchandise. And that really helps me keep this content coming. I've left the links down in the description below. Now, because Marshall have been around for so long and they've produced so many different models of amplifier, there is no one Marshall in a box pedal that can kind of do it all. So I'm going to use my 4 favorite Marshall in a box style pedals at different points in this video. So I'm going to use the SL Drive by Xotic. I've got the Sheriff by Victory Amplification. I've got the Crunchbox by MI Audio. And I've got the Guv'nor by Marshall. This is the original Marshall in a box. So the amplifiers I'll be using for this video, my reference amplifier will be my Marshall DSL40CR. I'll be using both the classic gain and ultra gain channels. And my clean amplifier that I'll be putting the pedals through will be my Fender Deluxe Reverb. Now I'll be running this completely clean so that all drive sounds are coming from the pedals. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate my 3 favorite Marshall tones and then see if I can replicate those tones with the pedals going through the Fender amplifier. So the first tone that I want to demonstrate is a Strat going into a slightly broken up Marshall. This is great for all your sort of Hendrixy, bluesy type tones. Works really well for Chili Peppers stuff as well. The second Marshall tone that I really like is that really mid-rangey classic rock sound that you get when you pair a Gibson guitar with a Marshall amplifier. The third tone that I really like to get from a Marshall is an 80s arena rock style tone. Right, well, having listened back to the examples, I think they do sound quite different. That's not to say one is bad and one is good, but they're definitely different. So for me, I think the biggest difference is that the amplifier had more presence. So there was more definition, particularly in the top end when it came to using the actual amplifier as opposed to the pedals. Now, for the first example, through my Strat, I was using the classic gain channel with the gain down a bit, and I think that the SL drive here sounded very, very mid-rangey, probably even more so than the Marshall amplifier, but again, it lacked that upper definition, and it sort of did feel a little bit compressed. I haven't actually played this pedal for years, not since I did a video where I chose this to be in my rig for a Jimi Hendrix sort of pedal board. The other one there was the Sheriff. Now, I found the Sheriff to be a bit more responsive and amp-like than the SL drive, but I do think that it did lack a bit of upper clarity that the amplifier had that this didn't seem to have. Now, as far as the EQ goes on these two, this has a tone control and this has a 3-band EQ. I don't always like pedals that have a 3-band EQ. I can get killer tones from pedals that only have a tone control. It really depends on how it's voiced. And I did actually like the way this is voiced, but I think it needed a bit more top end. For my medium gain example, I used the ultra gain channel, but I had the gain about halfway. I had the presence all the way up, which is what AC/DC like to do. And that gives you the real clarity with your open chords. And I just don't think that either of these two pedals could match that really. I think that the Guv'nor here got closer. It's got a different sort of top end to all of the other pedals that I tried. It's a little bit more fizzy. I actually preferred the sound of the Victory while I was actually playing it, but when I listened to them back, I actually found that the recording of the Guv'nor just had a bit more definition because of how that treble is voiced, but I don't think either of them got particularly close to the amplifier itself. Now for the high gain tones, the Crunchbox here has been one of my favorite high gain Marshall pedals that I've ever tried. But once you get that gain past halfway, it doesn't really become more distorted, it just becomes a bit more compressed. So it did actually sound, in comparison to the amplifier, a bit more squishy. And again, it just didn't have the same amount of definition as the amplifier. The Guv'nor here had a bit more definition, again, that treble control that I spoke of, but even with this, with the gain all the way up, it didn't have as much as this with the gain about 3/4 of the way up. So this one just didn't have enough gain, I think, to get those high gain tones effectively. Now, all up, in my opinion, I didn't hear a bad sound today in this video. I thought all of these pedals sounded really good, but they didn't sound exactly like the amplifier. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, that, well, none of these pedals were made to mimic a DSL40, and you'd be correct. That's part of the issue, I suppose, with with trying to replicate a Marshall. There's just been so many over such a long period of time. It's really an approximation rather than an exact tone. So I think it's all up to the player. If that Marshall tone is your core tone that you're going to use most of the time, then definitely get yourself the amplifier. If it's more of a sometimes thing, then yeah, the pedal probably will suffice. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. What Marshall in a box pedals do you guys love that I didn't represent here today? And what sort of tones do you like to go after with either your Marshall amp or Marshall in a box style pedal? I'd really like to know. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. You can support this channel by going to the Middle Aged Gear Junkie store and buying some merchandise. And you can also join the Middle Aged Gear Junkie Facebook page. Other than that, my name is Jason. Have a wonderful day. See you later.